SDP, the Steve Dangle Podcast, with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
I want that mug. Where'd you get that mug?
What mug?
Your Rogers Sportsnet mug.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I want that mug. Where do you get a Sportsnet mug?
I only drink out of TSN mugs. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I've never seen one of those in my entire life.
No.
I have a Sportsnet 590 The Fan mug.
Yeah.
Actually,
do you have a Sportsnet?
I have a Fan 590 mug. I stole it on my last day of work.
Of the people in this room or in this conversation that have worked for Sportsnet, I have worked for Sportsnet the least. I think it was 2.5 weeks, maybe 3. And I am the one with the mug.
You have the best mug.
How do I have the best mug? Maybe because I was the most beloved. Who knows?
Of all the things I probably shouldn't have, I think this is the shouldn't haveiest. I have a Fan 590 mic flash.
Oh, did you steal it?
Well, like, they were just lying around and not being used anymore. And, like, I don't know. Like, I was an intern for them, and that's it. But whatever. It's mine now. It's mine. I will consider this payment.
I don't think it should have been, but
I will thank you for the free years. I am going to take your mic flash.
No, I would happily give this to someone more deserving, because the years go by and I'm like, nope, it's weird that I have this.
Steve,
what?
Nobody deserves a mic flash. Don't put that shit on people, okay? It's a piece of plastic with some foam. You probably should throw it out. But
it costs like $8.
Yeah, if it means something to you, hang on to it. But to say that there might be somebody more deserving of a Fan 590 mic flash, and I say this about any station ever, they're pieces of plastic.
I have one person who deserves it more.
Who?
Roger Lajoie.
Oh,
he's the only person in the universe who would probably appreciate that more than Steve.
I think Roger's a part owner in the Fan anyway, so I don't think it really matters. He's been there so long that they must have given him stocks in that company. Must have.
Oh my God. I would hear him on the radio all the time. And then, like, sometimes I'd be like, oh, and he's on the same GO train car as me. So it's like, leave me alone, Raj. I have homework to do.
Hey, so game 4 tonight, obviously Tampa is up 3-0, and there are plenty of people who are cheering against the Lightning. But this one is the most surprising. The mayor of Tampa Bay will be cheering against the Lightning tonight. Producer Jesse, can you play? Not producer Jesse, just Jesse, can you play the audio?
Here's what we would like. What we would like is for the Lightning to take it a little bit easy, to give the Canadians just the smallest break, allow them to win one at home, and then bring it back to the Amalie Arena for the final and the winning of the Stanley Cup. But we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but they are playing some amazing, amazing hockey.
Now, coming from a Leafs fan's perspective, my suggestion would be to not tempt fate. No matter how far you think you got Montreal down, just, we've been here before. Take it from us.
It's a trap. No, win in Montreal.
Win in Montreal?
Yes,
you think so?
100% win in Montreal. Never. First of all, don't throw Stanley Cup final games. Who do you think you are? That's nuts. Do what you did last year. Win, go back, and celebrate. Easy. That's what Tampa does. It's what Tampa does best. Win trophies elsewhere, come back and party.
There should be a supercut of American politicians talking about hockey or ice hockey because honestly, you've got hardcore hockey fans in the States, but none of them are elected officials. And I don't know how it's possible that we've never had a hockey fan in office. But it goes back to Bill Clinton saying instead of Yzerman, Steve Yzerman. And they all say,
Clinton?
Yeah, it was Clinton. There seems to be among elected officials, ice hockey, as they call it. It's just hockey to us because they have field hockey down there. And that might be as big or bigger than the NHL. We don't know. The whole idea of ice hockey is like, well, this a quaint little sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Biden's not even a Flyers fan. He's told he's a Flyers fan.
Right. He's heard of the Flyers. He's seen the logo. But he was there on political business. He wasn't watching the game, right?
Hello. Springfield. Like that's just every politician when it comes to hockey teams.
Exactly. Anyway, it was very sweet, and I'm sure she's a huge Lightning fan. Obviously, you know what? The only thing that I will say is that if the Lightning do win tonight, the bummer thing will be that the arena is not full. Whether it's full of Canadiens fans or full of Lightning fans, it's a bummer that Quebec wouldn't go forward with, having 10,000 people in there. It looked like that was going to happen. And it would be pretty neat at Emily to see, obviously, 18,000 people freaking out because it's in such a rare sighting. However, win the cup and have a parade outside, and that's safer, to be honest.
All right.
You have it outside. What are the chances of you catching are pretty slim.
Tonight, I'm rooting for the Canadiens just because of Chris Johnston. Because Chris Johnston couldn't travel back and forth between Tampa and Montreal. So he's still down in Tampa waiting for Game 5 to happen. So I'm rooting for Montreal to win tonight so that Chris's journey, he can stay there and actually get another game down there. And it will be worth it, the quarantine. So that's why I'm rooting for Montreal.
Okay.
That's okay. Oh my God. That's so ridiculous. That is what it is, man. It's amazing that Tampa could win 2 cups. Back-to-back cups and not be able to celebrate in front of fans either time. That's shitty. There's no other way to describe it. It's just shitty. But they will get to celebrate in front of their fans. It's still going to be a good time. I believe it was a pretty big street party last year, was it not? Oh yeah, and they'll go 25 mil over the cap next year. Yeah, like just they'll hold Vasilevsky and Stamkos out of the lineup. And nature is healed, you might say. Yeah, it'll be fun. They'll acquire Price now, and it'll be great. We will have one game to talk about on Wednesday. One single hockey game. My question to the two of you right now, because I would like your predictions, is will it be the last game? I know you're cheering for Montreal, Jesse. Do you believe it will be Montreal's last game, or do you think they actually pull it out tonight? The problem with Montreal is that they had to come in this series and play a tighter hockey game, and limit turnovers and just try and stop Tampa's offense. And they did it successfully, and it still didn't work. Like they've been playing really well, and they can't play well enough to still stop Tampa. Like the turnovers are still happening, even though they've limited their number of turnovers compared to the other rounds. Tampa's just been able to take every zone entry, or every time they're exiting the defensive zone, just turn it into an offensive chance. Like they're limiting these chances for Tampa, and they're still converting them into goals each time. So I don't think there's a shot that Montreal even comes close to winning 4 straight here, but I think they get tonight, because sweeps are really hard to do. I think they win tonight, even if it's on accident. They get a couple and they somehow stop Tampa. And I think Game 5 in Tampa, they win the Stanley Cup. Stephen A. Dangle. It's definitely a cooler visual to win in Tampa, but I think it's over. I think Tampa wins it. Boy, watching Montreal try to get a goal in the third period, that's when I was like, okay, no. Oh yeah. The series is done. Montreal could not. They couldn't get out of their own zone. Yep. Like people talk about neutral zone defense. Tampa doesn't let you get out of your own zone. And even when Montreal is getting shots, they're not particularly dangerous. If Montreal's able to get the first goal, they're good at playing with the lead. And it suited them very well. They get an early goal, play with the lead, defend, but Tampa's done that. Allowed them. Tampa's done that 2 out of 3 games. They've gotten the lead early. Like that Jan Ruda goal was what a great shot. No one, including Carey, have seen that. But the one thing I did think was, that the Canadiens got more goals in Game 3 than they had the previous 2 combined. Yeah, but and like that Nick Suzuki shot underneath Vasilevsky's right pad there. He's got 2 goals in this Stanley Cup final. Neither should have gone in. No, but it was a great. I you know what? I want to give him a little bit of credit. I think he pinpointed that one, and I think that shows what kind of a weapon he is. However, that's the weapon. That's the one. And if he can't score, even if he can score, how good is it going to be really? And I think I think on that note, I mentioned earlier that earlier in this series, if they don't win Game 2, I don't think they're going to win a game. And I could be wrong about that still, but they threw everything they had in the first
I don't know, 60, 70% of that game in game 2, right? They were out shooting 30-15.
Mm-hmm.
Montreal had everything going for it, and it could not happen. And if you guys, the thing I would look out for too, you see some of the Montreal media pointing this out about Carey Price. There are people saying, and it's very rare to do this in Montreal, but they are criticizing some of Carey Price's play because I believe the save percentage is under 900.
I think it's 885. It's poor.
Now, is that from what you've seen? Because from what I've seen, I still see the same Carey Price. Is it just that this is a better team?
It's a better team, and the narrative. Too many people are gotcha, told you. With some people are doing it with the Habs, but people are doing it specifically with Carey Price, and it's wrong. I think it's wrong. You can look at the playoffs and go, it's a hot streak. I look at it as a guy who was pretty mediocre during the regular season. He's turned it on for the playoffs, and he's been great. And all of a sudden, he's turned into a pumpkin. Well, why? And this is what I often do with the Leafs. And when I was talking about Freddie for a while, particularly 2 years ago, actually, I'm like, okay, his numbers are garbage. Let's look at each individual goal that goes in, though, because we're able to do that. We know what all the goals are. There are no mystery goals. They were all on TV and 4K and all that. And Carey Price was screened on the first 2 goals. Should have maybe had one of them. Maybe he could fight his way through a screen. The Ruda shot he never saw. Not a chance.
And really, it was pinpoint accuracy. I don't think Jan Ruda even thought he could shoot like that.
Yeah, Sorelli set up a really good screen on the second goal. Third goal's a 2-on-0. That can't happen. And then 2 minutes later, nope, we got to clean that up. You allow a 2-on-1. It can't happen.
For you to for a lot of fans to make the egregious statement that, Carey Price is bad now, you have to be able to point out specific goals where it's entirely his fault. And that hasn't happened in these playoffs. Like, he hasn't been responsible for just overly bad goals. So he's not bad. It's just a good team.
And that's not to say he hasn't allowed bad goals, but they've got 5 goals in 3 games, and Carey Price is the reason you're losing?
Yeah.
Get out of my face.
Well, and beyond that, beyond that part too is the whole thing about, like, look at what Tampa has done to every other team. The only team they did not do this to were the Islanders. It was the only team. And there were games where they did it to the Islanders, but the Islanders were able to give it back. Nobody, even Canadiens fans can talk all they want. Nobody thought the Canadiens were going to the Stanley Cup final this year. Nobody thought that. So it's been a fun run. But at the same time, you got to understand that when you are a Cinderella story, you're Cinderella for a reason. You shouldn't be there. And you don't have the talent on paper to be there. You're there. You got there. It's great. But at the same time, you got to remember there's going to be a huge differential in talent. And I think it's unfair to point the blame at Carey Price. Maybe his numbers are low. But I think that there's just a lack of depth in Montreal in comparison to what Tampa has. And I think sometimes the team's just better.
I think it's just Tampa, man.
Yeah, they're just great. Now, keep going, Steve, on that, because I want to keep going. I got to open a window in here. I'm going to fry to death. Hang on.
Okay. I'm having a very difficult time really criticizing anything Montreal's doing. Today they're talking about, like, Ducharme's lineup decisions, things of that nature. Oh, puppy. Oh, that's a kitty. Whose kitty is that?
Teddy?
That's Teddy. That's Teddy the cat. That's my girlfriend's cat, Teddy.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he's cute.
Anyway,
anyways, Montreal.
There's some lineup decisions. To me, that's all very micro.
Can we go over those?
Yeah,
sure. The ones tonight.
You should.
Because they're surprising. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
To me, it's all very micro. If you look at them over the course of the entire playoffs, like really, really pinpoint a weakness. You could argue it's scoring, but they're not the only team. And they've defended so efficiently that they've gotten this far. It's just Tampa is this goddamn battering ram.
Right.
And they don't even need a ton of opportunities. We saw that in game 2. I watched that entire game, and yes, maybe the numbers made Montreal look a little bit more dangerous than they really were, but Tampa was a battering ram. They needed so much less than Montreal did. So sometimes I go back to what Ken Reed said, why can't we look at a goal and talk about how cool it was rather than the defensive breakdown or whatever. I mean,
that's a good point. Yeah,
it is a good point.
I think everybody's trying to get a little hipster with why goals happen too.
Yeah, 2-0. I mean,
goal.
2-0 is a bit of a no-brainer, but for the most part, I'm looking at what Tampa's doing, and it's Tampa doing it. You know what I mean? They're just extraordinarily good, deep, fast. What's their weakness, really? What's their Achilles heel?
Well, and so Jesse, you wanted to mention that you've got some lineup questions about Montreal, and I have as well. But I'd like you to go through what you were going to mention here.
The main one I just look at that's surprising is Khaki Nyami. I think because he leads the team right now in 5-on-5 goals during the playoffs. I think it's surprising that you take your top goal scorer at even strength and you bring him out of the lineup when you're desperate to win a game. That is surprising to me from Jeff Ducharme.
Listen, you want to bring Jake Evans in? Cool. There's been some argument today that it should be Thomas Tatar on account of they can't bloody score. I would support that decision too. Khaki Nyami's not
Tatar just had bad luck too, because as soon as they brought him out of the lineup versus Toronto, they went 11-2 in the playoffs. How do you squeak him back in?
He's been in 2 Stanley Cup finals over the last 4 years and been a healthy scratch both times.
Oh, that's
it's just a terrible. Those are the moments you dream of, and
it's a cruel game.
It's an extremely cruel game. To me, I think I'd take a look at maybe taking Eric Stahl out, which is counterintuitive for hockey because it's the veteran and everything, and you want the veteran to play in an elimination game, and who knows if he'll ever have a chance to get this close again.
Are you going to win?
What have you done for me lately? And by my eye, he's been a relatively weak link in this final.
I got to say, too, look at the 3 games that Montreal played in the finals. Which one did they look the least composed in?
Last game. 3.
Right. And I ask you what the change was.
You don't think it was that they were at home?
No.
Oh, Dominic Ducharme?
I think Luke Richardson should be the next coach of the Montreal Canadiens. He pulled them through the end of the Vegas Golden Knights series. He did. And the most composed, let's be honest here, okay? Toronto Maple Leafs are the biggest choke artists in the league, and you can quote me on that. Everybody knows it. It's not a big statement.
Adam, why are you bringing up things that are backed up by decades of evidence?
Yeah, the Winnipeg Jets, first they lose Scheifele, but they're not that great of a team. Montreal figured them out. They're a hardworking team.
Habs would have beat them anyway.
I think Habs would have beat them anyway, for sure. Which we got to talk about Edmonton, but you, Steve, you said it last episode. The Oilers fans are running around like they're on fire. Like they're just as bad as Leaf fans right now.
Oilers fans, you have to understand. I'm so sorry, but for the entertainment value, I can't wait for this trade.
And now they're getting Dungy, sure. But then you look at the Vegas series, one that Montreal really, on paper, had no business being in. And I think they looked the best under Luke Richardson. And I'm not trying to say this to insult Dominic Ducharme. I know I've had an axe to grind with him since game 1 of the playoffs. But to be honest with you, look at that set of games that they played with Luke Richardson and tell me that they played a better stretch of games. I can guarantee you they didn't. It did not happen. Montreal's
got some very interesting decisions to make because, I mean, if you're looking for a head coach, how don't you at least go, there's Luke Richardson?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, look at the playoff performance that they have and see, okay, so who did they do consistent? Like, because you got to do an honest assessment of your team at the end of the season. Okay, so we worked really hard. We were an incredible team, and they are. I will never take that away from this year's Canadiens. Wonderful, wonderful run. You ran up against Toronto. They choked. You won. You earned that. Winnipeg didn't stand a chance against you because you're just a deeper team, frankly, and a better constructed team.
They're better.
Vegas was a shock to everybody. It really, really was.
Underrated chokers.
Interesting you say that. What do you mean?
Back-to-back years in the conference final, they haven't been able to score a bloody goal. And the year before these back-to-backs, they had a huge lead in Game 7 and blew it. I'm sorry. If that was the Leafs, we'd be calling them chokers. they're chokers.
Wow. Okay. Steve versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Let's go.
Next year, they might not be chokers, but right now,
well, when Jack Eichel centers Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty, I'm sure they'll be much better.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to get them. That's what they do.
I mean, that's what you need, playoff experience.
I think, a lot of credit is due to the entire Canadiens coaching staff for, they lost their head coach this year, sort of a big deal. But I think you look at, if you're Marc Bergevin, you have to look at when the team looked the best. The team looked the best against Vegas. There's no question. That was this year's this year's version of the Montreal Canadiens. That was their pinnacle, unless they can somehow pull out 4 straight wins here. And to this point, those are the best games they've played. No question.
What a genuinely
we thought Vegas would be a good challenge for Tampa, and Montreal beat them.
They looked pedestrian, man. I from a playoff perspective, I hated watching the Vegas Golden Knights. I hated it.
What was it? Why?
They couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything. They just kept, they did this little east-west style in the neutral zone that got swatted every time. I'm watching their big line, expecting to be entertained. When Braden points on the ice, I adjust myself in my seat. I'm like, all right,
hey man,
let's friggin' go.
Blake Coleman this series. That guy he's been amazing.
Everybody, or like even for the Habs, like they got when Caulfield's on the ice,
you're watching.
It's like the video game meme. I sit forward in my chair. I'm ready. Vegas, I stopped doing it by like game 4. Right when I saw Mark Stone and Max Petra. All right, here's a shift off. Let me look down at my phone. I'll ask some questions, or I'll answer some questions. They were horrible. The Vegas Golden Knights, more than any other team in these playoffs, I go, how would I talk about these guys if they were the Leafs? They stunk.
Not good. Well, and that's
because of the Habs.
But again, it goes back to Jesse's point, which is there are some questionable lineup decisions that I don't think, Jesse, were being made when Luke Richardson was running the team.
Well, how much credit are we giving to NHL head coaches for on-ice performance?
That is a good question, and I think it's open. But I think I look at what Barry Trotz did with the Islanders, and I can tell you what a good coach can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how much effect does a bad coach have on world-class hockey players?
That's a good question. I don't know. You know what? I would be curious to see if you could get truth serum and run it through the last 20 years of every Stanley Cup champion player. How many of them not hated their coach? Because a lot of players hate their coach. A lot of us hate our bosses, and you're successful anyway. Hated or thought not hated. Thought their coach was inept. Thought their coach wasn't a good coach, but won anyway.
All right. If you put Steve behind the bench instead of John Cooper tonight, and with all the assistants and everything, and you gave Steve like a manual and what to do during what scenario.
Here's a key pass. You use it at the South Building.
Right. Here's where you get your lunch. It's complimentary.
There you go.
All right, Mr. Glenn, here, pose for your picture.
Could
Steve win a hockey? Could Steve win one of these next 4 hockey games?
Yes,
they would.
Yeah, right.
They wouldn't be winless, but
I think they're good enough where they can manage on their own. So it's
ignore Steve.
Right. So what's the? I don't know what the upgrade is or downgrade if Luke Richardson's in there or Mr. Ducharme is. I don't know.
I think it comes down to just talent in the lineup. How do you pull Khaki Nyami out? I mean, it's just like it's daft. It really is. And you can't tell me Eric Gustafsson has played well enough to continue to play.
No, he's been bad.
He's been so bad. Come on.
I don't think we're having this conversation if Khaki Nyami plays. But
he did this before, Steve.
No, right? I know. I don't understand why he's taking him out, and I don't understand why this all or nothing scenario is all right. Now we'll put Romanov in. Like, does this guy have an injury we don't know about? Like,
is he playing now? Is he going to play?
Yeah, he's playing tonight.
Yeah. Who is it? Is Kulak and Romanov are in. Merrill and Gustafsson are out.
And Evans
is in.
Yeah.
Khaki Nyami's out.
Yeah. Khaki Nyami's not going to play.
Khaki Nyami's not going to play.
So they could lose. They could lose the Stanley Cup tonight. And Khaki Nyami didn't even put on a jersey. And
like one of the only Habs I really consistently notice offensively is sitting. And that's the thing that they need the most. And hockey's ridiculous. So
they could win.
They could win 5-1 tonight.
and Jake Evans scores them all.
Yeah. First 5-goal game in I don't know, cup final history, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I would absolutely believe it.
One thing to be watching out for tonight too, and I've kind of said this yesterday, or sorry, last show, which feels like yesterday because I'm on vacation. Tampa with I call it hunting, but it's basically taking care of opportunities when they present themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the giveaways and that sort of thing, and I think the big stat again is giveaways because the Canadians had 23 in Game 3, Lightning had 13, and the first star of the game. Can anyone tell me who the first star of the game is?
From Game 3?
Yeah. Who was the first star?
Should have been probably Tyler Johnson.
Jesse, who do you think?
Kucherov.
So it was Tyler Johnson. How many minutes did Tyler Johnson play?
14.
Jesse?
How many minutes? 12.
9.
What?
That's
How
awesome.
many times was Tyler Johnson on waivers this year, guys?
At least once. I think it was as many as 3 times. Final
Pretty
answer,
sure
2.
Pretty sure he was on waivers 3 times.
Wow.
Now, he had a bad regular season. Nobody's here to erase that.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing here is probably the last of the heroic Tyler Johnson moments in Tampa because they've already had the conversation with him about trading him. They had it last year. And here's what happens. Somebody's going to help the Lightning. We said this about Chicago. Stop helping Chicago. We said this about, who else did we say this about? There was other good teams that was like,
Mostly Chicago.
stop helping Chicago. Stop helping Tampa. Somebody's going to come and help Tampa because they've seen Tyler Johnson perform and thought, he would look really good with us. And I have to give him credit. He has probably maximized his trade value, especially in the Stanley Cup final with everybody watching. But Tyler Johnson is to me, it's like a Joel Ward part 2. Like he's a real good pressure performer. And I just feel like somebody is going to come along, and not only are they going to help Tampa, they're going to give Tampa assets for Tyler Johnson.
Joel Ward for a number of years was a fascinating player. You look at his regular season numbers, and then faced playoffs come, and he's like, I am God now. Scarborough, let's go. So I wonder if there's a Victor Arvidsson-like trade where, okay, we're going to lose someone real good here. We might as well recoup a couple assets. Let's make a trade with a team that doesn't have all the cards on us.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't see Tampa getting much. What they get out of it is the cap space. If a team was smart, they would make Tampa pay. But I mean, teams want centers, right? And he can play center.
Yep.
I don't know. Tampa's confusing because I feel like they have a few guys who flip-flop.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, man.
$5 million.
It's a lot of money.
8 to 9 teams. He's got the no trade clause, but he's going to be gone this year.
I was going to say he's the kind of guy you could trade for if you're disappointed with what you got in free agency. Problem is free agency doesn't come until after the expansion draft. So Tampa, I think, is going to try to move this guy before the expansion draft. I just don't know if they're going to be able to get it done.
I think they'll get it done.
If they do get it done, prediction, if they do get it done, they're going to have to pay.
You think so?
Yeah, they're not going to be recouping assets.
Okay. All right. Now,
if they do, Brisebois is a friggin' unbelievable. Hey, Berkshire pointed this out on Twitter. If Tampa were to win the cup, because it hasn't happened yet, Julian Brisebois' Tampa Bay Lightning will have beaten all 3 GM of the Year candidates en route to the cup.
Dubas was a GM of the Year candidate?
Who? Sorry?
Oh, no. Dubas wasn't a GM of the Year candidate.
Bergevin.
No, it was Bergevin.
Lamoriello.
Lamoriello.
Lou Lamoriello, and now, so Bergevin, Lamoriello, and Bill Zito in the first round.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, as Jeff Merrick likes to point out, what is the GM of the Year award?
The Stanley Cup.
That's right. Okay. Now, we do have to switch gears here to a very, very sad story that broke last night, and we won't spend too much time on it because obviously, this is a young man and families in mourning. But Steve, can you pronounce his name properly?
Matiss Kivlenieks is the best I can do.
Now, we know that he was partying in Michigan last night, and there was basically a fireworks fight, and one hit him in the chest. And unfortunately, he was unable to be revived, succumbed to his injuries. There was obviously a ton of support from the Blue Jackets community, former teammates and teammates currently posting about him. Apparently just a fantastic guy. The Latvian Hockey Federation put out a statement today as well. And, what was interesting is this guy, it seemed like he was ready for his big break. I think Columbus was probably looking at trading one of their two goalies that were, one of their platoon goalies last year. And this guy was going to be the guy, I think, that was going to step into that role.
He shut out Canada a couple months ago at the World Championships.
Yeah. All the talent, all the potential in the world, and an absolute shame. So we just wanted to take a moment and send our I hate to say thoughts and prayers because certain people have ruined that, but send our best to his family and anybody that knew him and anybody that saw him play. It seems like he had a lot of fans around the game. Nobody has anything but glowing things to say about him. So it's really great on that one.
You can tell they're pretty shattered about this in Columbus, but also like the Latvian hockey community is really, really passionate and really tight knit. So this is a sad day for them.
It is. We're going to move on. And again, hard right turn, but we have to make it. Joel Eriksson Ek was re-signed in Minnesota like seconds after we finished recording last episode. So I figured we kind of go through this a little bit. Just because, like we did with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and there were some Oilers fans who did not appreciate the fact that we suggested that maybe Ryan Nugent-Hopkins wouldn't be the same player at 38 as he is right now. I got a few DMs from people being upset about it. However, it's usually what happens with hockey players. Yeah, just about that. Well, there was some name calling in there, but Joel Eriksson Ek's an interesting guy because, with respect to the Minnesota Wild, outside of Minnesota, they're not usually a top story. You don't usually hear about the Minnesota Wild until like Kirill Kaprizov came in, and then you're starting to see kind of highlight reel things. But they're a team that consistently makes the playoffs. Sometimes they even make it to round 2, but they don't ever seem to be able to get over the hump. They've had the same core for a long, long time. And it seems like with Eriksson Ek and then obviously Kaprizov and Fiala, they've got a new core and there's a new look, a new more exciting look to the Minnesota Wild. So I guess starting at 8 years, $42 million. And the most interesting thing about the press release is that it actually stated how much money he's making. So $5.25 million for 8 years. What was your initial reaction to the deal, guys? And are you a fan of it?
I mean, well, first of all, if there's any team that should be bloody putting all the contract details out, it's the Minnesota Wild. You owe us. You owe the hockey world, gosh darn it. If I'm not mistaken, he finished, yes, just reading on Twitter, he finished 4th in Selke voting this year. So really good defensive center. Just the 30 points in 56 games, not mind-blowing, but he had a lot of goals. 19 in 56. And at 24 years old, he's the kind of guy you lock up to 8 years. All right? Not a guy pushing 30, a guy who's pushing 25. That I think is an enormous difference.
32, right, when he's done.
Yeah, and the only way, by the looks of his career trajectory, the only way this wouldn't work out is an unforeseen injury, which wouldn't be a problem for the Wild anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? In
LTIR
terms of
stuff.
Cap space, I mean. Obviously, they'll be missing out on his talent. But no, it looks like a really good deal. And especially, let's say 5 years from now. How much is a second line center, potentially even first line center by then, worth? A lot more than $5 and a bit mil. This is a good deal. I like it.
Yeah, and it's a guy who's 24 and had his career high this year in goals and I think points as well, like 19 goals in 56 games. And Bill Guerin, he only had really 3 big things on his list for the offseason, and that was this contract and then Fiala and Kaprizov. So he's already got one down. The other 2, I assume, will get done very shortly. And then just worrying about the expansion draft. It's not a hard offseason for Minnesota, especially with 2 first-round picks. You got Pittsburgh's and your own.
That's right, from that Zucker deal, right?
Yeah. So Bill Guerin's going to have he's going to, by default, I think, have a good offseason just because it's so simple from the Minnesota perspective. And then they come back next year as a team that made the playoffs, and hopefully they sneak in again the next season. To
be fair to his predecessor, Paul Fenton, who just died over Kevin Fiala. Paul Fenton was David Poyle's assistant in Nashville. And when he was the GM for that tumultuous 13 months, he was the guy that made the big trade for Fiala because he was a huge fan. And everybody at the time was like, well, I don't know, Fenton, it hasn't really worked out. And look at that. It actually has. So at least one of the things he did was right. Maybe the way he managed it was not, but I think there's we got to give him
I hated that trade.
Now, I got a question for you in terms of signing contracts, because we ran into this problem with the Leafs, and admittedly, it's a different situation. But when you've got a guy like Kaprizov and you've got Fiala sitting on the sidelines, to me, you got to tackle the guy that's most likely to get offer sheeted, right? And if you're now, I know NHL GMs won't do this because they just don't really have the creativity or the balls to do it. But if a guy like Kaprizov
is ineligible for an offer sheet.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he can't be offer sheeted. He's a 10.2 contract, meaning he hasn't accrued the necessary amount of professional seasons required for Group 2 RFA status, which is when you can be offer sheeted.
Very fortunate.
They are. I was just gonna say, holy smokes! If he's a guy that's an RFA, I'm all over that.
He's good.
The key thing to look for in the expansion draft is they have 3 defenders with no movement clauses, which means you have to protect all of them. But the best one who does not have a no move clause is Matt Dumba.
And they've been trying to move on from him for a bit.
Yeah, so I wonder if this is the offseason they finally do it, and then it's easier to maybe go 7-3 or
so. Could you not, like, I would look at trying trading Ryan Suter to Seattle. Like, I feel like at 36,
giving up both first round picks then.
At 36, like, that's the contract you want off your books at $7+ million.
And this is everyone going to yell at Jesse. He's got a no move. Who cares? No move doesn't actually mean anything. It just makes it harder. And it's Ryan Suter, so it's going to be hard anyway. He's got a $7.538461 million dollar cap hit for the next 4
till he's 40.
Oh, baby, that is yucky poo-poo. But this season, he makes 6. And then the following season, 2, 1, and 1. So there could.
You've been talking to Leo too much.
Yucky poo poo. You know what?
Poo-poo.
You know, a team that would make a lot of sense is the Edmonton Oilers,
because they need a guy to play with Keith. You're
Duncan
right.
Keith. Imagine
right.
you have literally back-to-back Norris Trophy winners on your blue line. How sweet is that? Right?
Bro, that's
you could have the slowest blue. Resign Adam Larson and Chris Russell. Let's do it. Come on,
stop trolling.
You could literally have 4 statues playing defense for you next year, and Darnell Nurse.
You're mean.
Picking up the slack.
You're being mean.
What? No, it's not mean. It's not mean. It's true. Are you telling me Ken Holland wouldn't at least call about Ryan Suter? Ken Holland would call about Ryan Suter.
I would love
to
know.
Do you actually believe? Seriously, do you believe that Ken Holland wouldn't call about Ryan Suter if he was available?
No, absolutely. No, he would.
You think that Ken Holland would call?
Oh, yeah.
Of course he would call. Of course he would call. If he's calling about Keith, he's calling about Suter.
I think most GMs would call just to really.
But Suter's not that. It's yucky poo poo beyond his performance.
His offensive numbers are good enough. I don't know what his possessions are. I assume they're dropping, as you know, because time is undefeated.
Yeah.
Unless you're Tom Brady. But yeah, that's I'm sure they would love to move on from that deal.
I don't know that they're going to be able to.
All right.
No, but like you said, they have a couple first round picks. Hey there, Seattle. Again, Seattle is this like just card that we pull out, and we're just like, here it is. Here's the fix-all card. Seattle. It's okay. We're gonna get out from under this guy, Seattle. How do we fix this problem? I don't know. How about Seattle? And just everything is Seattle. This is a much better expansion draft conversation though than we were having a few years ago when everything came back to they can't lose Brendan Leipzig. It's one of my less good.
Look it up. You must look that up. Where Steve is legitimately upset about the Leafs losing Brendan Leipzig.
Yeah. Here's how you find it. Go look at any episode within like a 3 or 4 month time
period
span.
It's going to be Leipzig. What are they going to do? Like, I'm upset that they lost.
This is a guy you can play anywhere in your lineup. You can play power play.
Yeah.
He's definitely not a jerk
Yeah, he's got maybe 20, maybe 30 more games in the NHL left, and just totally a guy you can't miss out on.
Yeah, well,
And definitely
we're all wrong sometimes.
Yeah, that's all good. No, so I think obviously, okay, with Kaprizov's contract status not being RFA, then I guess you tackle Fiala first.
Yeah.
But
they're going to lose a good guy, I think, to the draft here.
I think they are too. But my question, just quickly on Kaprizov, is how do you begin? So Eriksson X worth 5.25. You've seen years and years and years of him.
Mm-hmm.
How do you begin in a somewhat still depressed environment in terms of finances to model a contract? What's a comparable for Kirill Kaprizov? Small sample size, spectacular results. How long do you go? How much money? How high do you go?
The easiest comparable. So I came over as a much older rookie from Russia and won the Calder.
Panarin.
Artemi Panarin is the easy one.
But that was 5 years ago.
It was.
Or 6 years ago.
What percentage of the cap was it at the time?
That's a good question.
Let's see. That's a very good question. He got, it looks like 2 years, $6 million.
Mm-hmm. And that was 2014. So that would have taken him in 2016 because he won.
He was signed December 2016.
Okay.
Almost 2017.
And he won the Calder over McDavid.
Yes, he did in 2015.
Mm-hmm. So he signed this in 2016, the extension, at $6 million, which was what at the time, percentage-wise?
Higher than it is now.
Well, what was the cap in 2016?
It actually, wow, cap-friendly rules. It actually has that. I didn't know. 8.22%.
Of that cap.
Cap-friendly rules, man. Like it's got everything. I did.
Pretty great.
Adam, I froze because I'm like, there's no way that information. Oh, it's literally right there in front of my face. 8.22. So what would that be this year? What would that be? Don't worry, I'm on it.
Mm-hmm. 79 point something.
Is 81.5 million times.
This is fun.
6.7.
See, you think
that's about right?
A couple of years, 6.7 million?
A little less. 6.34.
But
It's
he's got he could say, listen, you might say my NHL sample size is small, but I also played in Russia and was this good in Russia too. Right?
Panarin could have said the exact same thing. It's a tough conversation because you're like, well, he signed for that several years ago, and then you go very much like my Seattle card. You go pandemic. It's a large card. It's like the size of an iPad. It doesn't belong in the deck at all.
By the way,
it's a legitimate card.
What's the story with Kaprizov, and why did he go in the 5th round? Was it that nobody thought he would come?
It could be that. Like it could be like Kuznetsov was a first-round pick for the Caps.
Mm-hmm.
Do they take him in the first round if they knew how long it would take him to come over? I don't know.
Right.
Interesting.
That's a pretty tough one. Kaprizov, that's a very good question. I don't know.
Okay.
Kuznetsov is a good comparable. That's another one.
Yeah, that's
the
actually
guy
true.
who came over and blew it up in at age 22.
In terms of development, he's the guy who reminds me of him the most. Just this guy who for years, wait till you get a load of this guy. And by the time he came over, I was like, I'm bored. Like, is he coming or not? The only reason I was jacked for him to come over is because I covered him in the KHL like the year before he came over. And I got to actually watch him and I'm like, oh, okay, this guy is actually like a leg up, like above everybody else. But until he actually comes to the NHL, I'm sick of the conversation. 5th round, this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Not bad.
Summer's here and hotter days are just around the corner. Keep cool with the help of our friends at Manscaped, who just launched their 4th generation performance package, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0. That's right. You heard that right. 4.0. Complement your summer grooming routine with a trim from the leaders in male grooming. The sun is shining and calling your name, fellas. Join over 2 million people worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for the summer. You got to get Manscaped, and you can get 20% off plus free shipping with the code DANGLE, DANGLE. Just check that out. It's super easy. Now, here's the thing. First off, the new Performance Package 4.0 includes the Lawnmower 4.0. Truly the GOAT of all men's body trimmers, and goats would know they're hairy. Their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to advanced skin-safe technology. That's trademarked. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch, which can engage a travel lock and gives you the ability to turn on a 4,000K LED spotlight so you can be a little bit more precise. And, you can put a little sunshine on it. You know what I'm saying? Did I mention the trimmer is waterproof too? So in the shower or in the sun, doesn't matter. Lawnmower 4.0 is the best trimmer for you. And like we said, get 20% off free shipping with the code DANGLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code DANGLE at manscaped.com. Stay fresh this summer and shine with Manscaped. Growing up, cereal is one of the best parts about being a kid. It was the bomb, but then you grow up and you realize, oh, it's full of sugar and junk and stuff that I probably shouldn't eat. What if I told you, because we're all trying to eat better, that you can, and it can be cereal, and it can be fun? We are talking about Magic Spoon, okay? So 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only net 4 grams of carbs in each serving. 140 calories a serving. That's it. It's keto-friendly, it's gluten-free, it's grain-free, it's soy-free, low-carb, GMO-free. You can build your own box or get a variety pack. Available flavors include cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, all the ones you remember from being a kid that you loved so much. And if you go to magicspoon.com/SDP to grab your delicious meal, try it today. You can use that promo code and you get $5 off your first order. Again, that's magicspoon.com/SDP. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. One more time, magicspoon.com/SDP to save $5 off. If dreams of vacations and enjoying the fun of life are turning back into reality for you, don't let concerns about financial setbacks keep you from saying yes. Credit Karma helps keep your financial goals in check so you won't have to hit pause on the good times ahead. So here's the deal. Credit Karma's got game-changing technology that shows you tailored offers for credit cards and personal loans that you're more likely to be approved for, so you can apply with more confidence. They'll use your credit and other financial information to show you custom recommendations. And whether you want cash back or travel rewards or you to consolidate debt, Credit Karma can help you find the offers that fit your goals. And with a selection of options and approval odds, you have the power to make informed decisions. It's Credit Karma. Apply with confidence. Go to creditkarma.com/podcast to learn more and find offers tailored just for you. That's creditkarma.com/podcast, PODCAST, or you can see your offers at the Credit Karma app. So just download that. Apply with confidence today. Go to creditkarma.com/podcast or the Credit Karma app. So I wanted to bring this up just specifically for Canadian fans. The Blue Jays and TFC are kind of watching and waiting for the federal government to talk about coming back and playing at home. So TFC has actually officially submitted a plan to the federal government. And this is important for specifically for Leaf fans, because it's the same body that owns the Leafs. And if they are submitting for government approval, you can imagine that they're going to try to take this and use this and apply it to when the Leafs are back in October. That's the expectation, I would think. So the Blue Jays are watching whatever happens with TFC, but TFC has had no home games in 2 years, and they're 1-8-2, and they just fired their head coach, so things aren't doing well. And they want to bring. They did. They hired their head coach 6 months ago. He's gone.
They lost 7-1 in soccer.
Yeah, pretty bad team. Pretty bad. So basically, we don't specifically know how many people would be allowed in, like percentage wise. But you have to think, with outdoor COVID transmission being as low as it is, which we know scientifically it is, and we know that obviously. The Jays are a little bit different because when you walk the concourse at Skydome, it's closed in. It is closed in, so you have to be a little more careful, even if you have the roof open. With TFC, you're outdoors, and the concourse is outdoors, and the only thing that's not outdoors is the bathrooms, and you can wear a mask in there.
Hey,
which is probably,
sometimes.
Honestly, if the mask rule stays for going to the bathroom, I'm cool with it, because there are some gross bathrooms. But not saying TFC is gross.
Who's fighting for that?
Yeah,
I want to breathe it all in. That's what I'm fighting for. The freedom to just Go with the mask, bro. Chill.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, we're gonna wait and see. You got to think though, the Leafs. If everybody's got Canada's on track to have basically everybody have a double dose available by the end of August. You have to think that the next 8 weeks we're going to know how many tickets you're going to be able to buy to the Leafs game. Not if, but how many. And that's pretty exciting. And I wonder for a Leaf game. Now, whether anybody wants to buy a ticket or not will be very interesting because of how angry the fan base is. But I wonder, honestly, do you see 10,000 people in there in October?
How many season tickets do the Leafs have booked? Because I wonder, maybe no, because it's not every seat in the house.
No, it's not.
So I wonder if all of the tickets would be mostly accounted for based on the limits of the stadium.
Season ticket. How many season tickets are there?
Like, is it 50% of the building is already accounted for in season tickets? I don't think it's that much.
If you can't fill half the building by then, I'd love to know why. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy to listen. If we're keeping people safe, cool. I get it. But like Adam said, for reasons X, Y, and Z, they ought to be. Yeah. So why? Like, why are 25,000 people allowed to basically make out outside of the Bell Center, but only 3,500 people are allowed?
That's because it's outdoors.
I know they're outdoors, but they're this far away from each other's face.
But there's no distancing. You should probably let a little bit more people inside too.
Like the Ontario government's like, yeah, you can have X amount of people in your backyard. They didn't say you could all make out. And all those people are basically making out.
Mm-hmm.
And the numbers didn't spike or anything. It's crazy.
That's the other thing. This is what. So here's the thing: as the vaccination rates go up, at a certain point, we do have to look at what it looks like to open up, and whether or not you're personally comfortable with it is immaterial. We have to look at what it looks like when this opens up, and I wonder how much of the federal government response to Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment plays into how they get the Leafs and the Raptors back in those buildings, because it's been the Leafs did okay, but the Leafs were at home. For the Raptors, it's been a total disaster. Mm-hmm. The Raptors were a better team than what we saw in the bubble and what we saw last year playing at Tampa.
Seeing how bad the Raptors had it kind of makes what the Jays are doing miraculous.
Yeah. It? Yep.
I know they haven't exactly been the best, but like the fact that they're getting like the kind of performances they are out of like Vladdy, for example, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty unreal. It's completely derailing the conversation, but
no, it's true.
I'm dying for this all to, dude. Most of my in-laws are in another country across the ocean. Like, just give me a dates.
Mm-hmm.
Give me let us plan our lives. For God's sake.
Well, and they finally released last week in Canada. I know the States has had this for a while, but when you're fully vaxxed, what can you do? They hadn't talked about it. They refused to even, because nobody politically wants to come out and say anything, which is a real problem because people are getting double vaxxed and then going, so I can't do anything?
Like, I know you're worried about who's going to vote for you and shit, but like, what can I do? What can I do?
Exactly.
Like, what about the voter? Fucking tell me, asshole.
Nobody cares about you unless it's time to vote. Now, I am looking at this article, Jesse, going back to your question about how many actual seats are available.
Mm-hmm.
This is for a playoff game, so I'm not sure how fair this is, but between season ticket holders, scalpers, and corporations for the first playoff game in 2018, which would have been April 12th or April 13th, only 96 seats were available for the general public.
96?
Wow.
Yes. Of 18,201. And
we need
600
team.
There were 672 on the pre-sale, but you have to be signed up for that. So for general public non-pre-sale, there were
unbelievable
96. If you were to count the pre-sale and the general public's ticket purchases together, it's still less than 900 out of 18,000.
I think they probably hold back, like, I don't know, I'm just ballparking 1,000 tickets a game based on that number. Like, maybe they can take some of those corporate seats and they're like, okay, the corporate seats don't apply here. It applies only to season ticket holders, blah, blah, blah. And they have like maybe 500, maybe not even 1,000, like a 500 each game. If the capacity limit is 40%, let's say, of 19,000 in Scotiabank. So it's 40% of that. I think maybe 35% is season tickets. Like it'll just go to you. And then like 5% is just general public.
So think about this. Imagine there are 12,000 season seat holders, okay? Just for fun, out of 18,000. And the Ontario government says you're allowed to have 6,000 people in there. So you're season seat holder.
Lottery.
You can only go to one of every 2 games, and you've paid full price. Because you
get your money back.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, because like this season, you wouldn't have had to pay for your season tickets.
You have to pay to retain the license, though, if you are one of the license holders, because there's the season seat holders and then there's the license holders.
Yeah, but for the actual tickets, you're paying half the price.
I don't know.
There's no gain.
I'd be curious. I'd be curious about that. I really would.
You also got to remember the life of a season seat holder is different from ours.
It is.
Now
it is very different. They build their life around the team.
They do. Yeah. And I don't know about the Leafs necessarily. I don't know a ton of Leaf season seat holders, but like my father-in-law, for example, with TFC, and he was like an early TFC season seat holder, and the team was rubbish, and they had not, like, it wasn't any of the championship years. It was before the championship years, and they tried to jack the price, and he basically emailed them explaining no. And they said, all right, very good, sir. And he was fine. That's
crazy.
He just had the same seat, same price.
Yeah, that's good.
Because he was basically like, how dare you charge me more? You guys are shit. I'm not paying more. And they went, you're right, you're not.
That's good business.
I like that. So he should have done the negotiating for you with Mazda.
Hey, Leafs. Oh yeah. First of all, yes, he should have.
Not $1 more.
No. But I'd be very interested to see, because it's MLSE, which is TFC actually, but it's the Leafs, so that's different. But I'd be very curious if they tried to jack the price and season seat holders were like, didn't you just choke again? I wonder how those conversations go. I imagine differently than TFC, but I'd be curious.
It's hard to watch, like, if next season the building's at like 30% capacity, and then we went through an entire playoffs where all the American teams had like 100% capacity. Like that'll be.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I think based on our vaccine rates, which are better now than the American vaccine rates, like per capita, way better. I think 40% of Torontonians have double vax, and at least 80% have at least one. The Americans haven't even hit 70% countrywide, and everybody can get one. If everybody walked into the drugstore today, they could all get one, and they can't get people, especially in the southern states, cannot get people in to do it. They will not take it. So it's a very interesting time for that. And I won't get into that debate because it isn't a debate. There is one side, and that is it. The interesting thing is that I know that the government here is going to be very, very slow about this. However, at a certain point, you got to recognize provincially, there is an election next year. And I wonder how much that plays into, like, if you're say the federal government opens the borders, which they probably will in the next 30 to 60 days. Then it's down to the province, and the province says you can or you can't. And
isn't there potentially a federal one this summer?
I don't think this summer. No,
no,
probably be next, but there will be. And you know that as soon as COVID's on the wane, which it sort of is, although not in every country, I recognize that, they're going to try to win an election. So how do you do that? You start letting people get back to their normal life. And I think people would vote for that. And
everyone's mad.
Everyone's mad. Let them get distracted. That's probably what you want to do. So I'm curious to see how much the pending election, which I believe is mandated for next June, has to do with this going forward. It'll be very, very curious to watch. And I get
Adam, you can't talk about the provincial election. It's illegal now.
Why is that? What?
No, it's illegal. Doug made it illegal.
No, did he?
You can't talk about the election.
No. I also want to mention this. We were talking about Oilers fans being just terrified of this Duncan Keith deal whenever it seems like it's inevitable now.
Oh, it's my favorite TV show.
So it's great. So Archeola guy, who is one of our favorite Oiler followers, just tweeted this. He said, listening to Bob Stauffer Galaxy brain himself into thinking Keith would be a great addition, worth Caleb Jones and a prospect.
What?
That's what.
No.
And he said now again, I haven't heard the Bob Stauffer interview, but I do think this is kind of funny. He said, he has himself convinced that Keith is still a top 4 defenseman and will remain a top 4 defenseman for his age 38 and 39 seasons. The evidence for this appears to be that Chris Chelios played for a long time on an all-star team.
Oh, dear. Oh, no.
To be clear, and Archeology Guy tweets this, and we said this in the last episode, the Hawks should have to pay not just the Oilers, but the third team in on this deal, because there should be a third team in on this deal if you're the Oilers, to take the salary off their books. They should have to. It should be a double retention, and then Keith makes sense for the Oilers. Beyond that, there's no way.
I explained last show, and I think I was kinder than most. There are situations where acquiring Duncan Keith could benefit your team, but to give up a roster player and a prospect and have no retention, no, it simply doesn't make sense. A lot needs to happen for acquiring Duncan Keith to make sense for your team.
Right.
Right. And the Oilers, I guess. Like, listen, oh man, I think that guy, I think you start him in a bottom 6 role and he can play maybe second pair in a pinch.
Yeah. He's like what Patrick Marleau was for the Leafs, playing third line center when he had to.
A contributor when he started with the team. Like a good contributor. That guy had 27 goals.
He did. 6 of them were empty netters. Still had 21 goals on goalies. Who cares? And I think lastly, Jesse, we have this audio that I wanted to play for you that's been making the rounds on the internet. And, the thing is that it's, I wouldn't say that COVID is on the wane worldwide, but I would say that we have a pretty good weapon against it, and that is the vaccine, and people are excited to get back to their daily lives. And I would like you to listen, Steve, to this man who is extremely excited. I have no idea what the context is here, but extremely excited about the upcoming Flow Rider concert he's about to attend.
Oh my God, where?
My name's John. I'm from Bridesburg. I've been waiting for a Flow Rider concert this entire pandemic. I knew the pandemic would be over when Flow Rider took the stage. I'm ready. Are you guys ready? Hit like and subscribe. Flow Rider's coming. Yeah. My name's John.
Hit like and subscribe. I like this guy. Fired up for Flow Rider.
Does he listen to your YouTube channel? Does he watch?
Tell all your friends. Flow Rider, here he comes. Where was this? Pittsburgh? Oh my God, I love that. I think it was in Florida. Up about anything.
It was probably in Florida.
Florida?
They're actually having a concert.
Yeah, but where's he from?
He's from Pennsylvania. He's wearing a Phillies jersey in it. So
amazing! Did I nail it or what?
You nailed it.
I nailed it.
Not a Yinzer, but from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, like 10% of Florida's from Florida.
Yeah, really.
Like, really.
I knew the pandemic would be over when Flow Rider took the stage.
I love that. Thank you for bringing that to my life.
I knew the pandemic would be over when Chameleonaire hit the stage. Like when you
I can't wait to see the free Shawn Mendes concert at Dundas Square. Let's go. This is how we rocketed the T-Tots in my Puma suit. Anyway, I really like that clip. Thank you.
No problem. I just thought we'd end that on a light note. Jesse, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
It was in Philly because NBC 10, I believe, is a Philly network. Yeah, NBC 10 is where the clip came from. So, yeah, it was in Philly. And
Philly, Pittsburgh, same thing.
Did I tell you guys that I once went to a Flow Rida and Pitbull concert because they were on tour together?
Yes, you did.
Mm-hmm. And it was at the Stampede Corral. If you're in Calgary, you know what I'm talking about. It's that's where the Flames used to play. Seated how many people? 5,000.
Oh,
and my grandfather's season tickets were right beside the organ player, who was located in the middle of the section. So they had a lot in the 80s. They had before the Saddledome, they had a live organ player in the corral set, and they would play she would play the organ, and she was sitting beside fans.
That's kind of cool.
Isn't that neat?
It would never fly today, but that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. So my mom remembers going to games with him when she worked at CJ in Calgary, and they had season seat. They were long time season seat holders, and they would sit beside the organist because my grandfather played the organ and he loved it. So
he was smiling all day.
Yeah,
Flow Rider. I knew Flow Rider would be back. The pandemic would be be over when Flow Rider played. Hit like and subscribe.
Oh, let's get in the press
Great.
conference.
All right, guys, I did a thing where
this is cool. I'm
I
excited for this.
power ranked all the teams in the playoffs based on who I think should be favorited to win the Stanley Cup based on everything we saw in the playoffs.
Okay.
So I did the top 8 teams. So then 8 teams didn't make my top 8.
Did you rank them 1 through 8?
Yeah, I ranked them 1 through 8. I think that's the important part of this. So I'm going to give you my power rankings of the playoff teams based on everything we saw. And then you guys tell me if I went wrong in any part of my ranking. So number 1, Tampa. I'll just run through it and then we'll go over in detail. Number 1, Tampa. Number 2, New York Islanders. Number 3, Vegas Golden Knights. Number 4, Colorado Avalanche.
Wow.
Number 5, Boston Bruins. Number 6, Montreal Canadiens. Number 7, Carolina Hurricanes. Number 8, Pittsburgh Penguins.
Wow.
So my top 4, I think, is solid, but I'm willing to hear arguments on the order, but I'm not willing to discuss, hey, somebody else should be in this top 4 because this top 4 is solid. It's
No,
Tampa.
you're not even willing to discuss it.
No, try and discuss it with me. I'm not going to be entertaining.
All right.
Adam, this isn't friggin' show and tell, all right?
Yeah.
This isn't audience participation. The episode's done.
Exactly.
Stop the episode right now.
I'll run over the top 4 again. We can get into details here. Tampa, New York, Vegas, Colorado. Top 4 power rankings of the playoffs. Do you guys have any arguments there with the order?
Not yet.
You know what? I actually really like the top 4. I'm in on the top 4.
No, I just want Jesse to get through it.
The bottom 4 again. Boston, Montreal, Carolina, Pittsburgh.
And what? Okay, so this is based on what they did in the playoffs.
Yeah, based on what I saw, I watched pretty much every series in this playoffs. I had a lot of time at home, couldn't go anywhere. So based on what I saw from these teams, the 4 through 8 is Boston, Montreal, Carolina, Pittsburgh.
I have an issue.
This list features a team that played fewer games than the Leafs. You know this.
Yes.
That would be who?
The Pittsburgh Penguins. The Pittsburgh Penguins were the first round. They played the New York Islanders, who, based on my power rankings, were the second best team in these playoffs. They took them to 2 overtime games, and the second overtime game was a double OT game. I consider those coin flips. If you're in overtime in the NHL in the playoffs, those are coin flip games. And they lost the series 4-2. Those 2 games could have gone either way. And then I saw them play them hard on. I believe one of those losses was a little bit of a blowout loss. I know game 6 where it ended was a 5-3 loss where that could have gone either way as well. There's a goal by Barzal because that's how it always ends. But I saw Pittsburgh play hard, and if you remember the regular season, they finished 5th in the entire league. New York finished 12th. I saw a really good Pittsburgh team who got bested by the second best team in the playoffs. So I'm going to rank them as my 8th seed coming out of this.
I have an issue with your list.
Where?
One issue.
Where is it?
I think you need to put more respect on the Florida Panthers name.
No, there's another team who lost in the first round and got demolished.
Florida Panthers.
What? Oh my
Florida
God,
Panthers
Jesse.
took 2 games from the Tampa Bay Lightning. The only other team to do that is the New York Islanders. The Florida Panthers took 2 games. The Carolina Hurricanes, who are on your list, did not. They lost.
The Carolina Hurricanes won a round.
They won a round, but they weren't playing Tampa. And when they played Tampa, they got steamrolled.
Yeah.
So, yes, and one of those games went to overtime. I would say that we need to have a little more respect for the Florida Panthers for taking 2 games from the Tampa Bay Lightning, a feat no other team as of yet has even come close to accomplishing. Like, really come close.
But New York did it.
Who did it? Except for the Islanders. But with the Islanders, we're already in there. They have to be on the list.
I think what ruins your list is I don't know why you put the Islanders second. You might as well put them first. Like based off of this list. Like Pittsburgh should not be on this list.
They should not be on the list.
No, Tampa's the number 1 power rank team. Like, that's how are you changing?
Well, And Vegas is very highly ranked. Otherwise, Colorado would be at least lower on this list.
So that they're the 3-4, the Colorado Vegas, I had it essentially as a tie, and I gave Vegas the leg up because they beat Colorado.
And you are correct.
That's where I'm just like, hey,
Boston. It was right?
New York, yeah. But Boston, I thought Boston looked incredible, especially with Taylor Hall on your second line when they're playing as well as they are. So that's why they got my 5th seed.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I don't understand how you rank 5 teams ahead of the Habs, man. Here,
look at their road, though.
I did a fun little game. The 1 versus 8 series out of your picks is Tampa versus Pittsburgh. Who do you got? Tampa, obviously. So here, I'll keep my little document going. So you have Tampa.
I did this as well. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Islanders versus Hurricanes.
Islanders.
Obviously the Islanders, who no, Carolina lost to Tampa. The 4 versus 5 series, I'm skipping one.
Yeah.
Is Colorado versus Boston. I have Colorado.
Yeah.
I think that's I think by a hair.
Exactly.
I don't think they kill them.
That's why it's 4 versus 5. Tell me my power rankings are. We got to 4 versus 5, and you're like, oh, it's barely. Yeah, because that's where they're ranked.
But the 3 versus 6 series. And the 3 versus 6 series is our first upset because we have Vegas versus the Habs.
Yeah,
and I can't ignore reality. They won. Montreal
won. At the beginning of this podcast, what did you say? Vegas choked. I think based on everything we saw, they knocked off Colorado. Like that was the best team, and they won the President's Trophy. Colorado did. I think they have more talent than probably anybody in this league besides Tampa. And Vegas knocked them off. So I gotta say, if we played this again and we had to re-rank these teams, I gotta rank Montreal a little in the lower half because I don't believe a lot of what they did is sustainable. And if you run it back, that they win another series against Vegas.
I did look at Game 7, Tampa the Islanders, and I went, okay, like if anybody watched that treat of a series that I thought was going to be boring, you'd know. By Game 7, you're like, okay, whoever wins this game is going to win the Stanley Cup. Right? Vegas, there's an argument. Even Colorado, there could be an argument there. Boston, oh man, I don't know how you have the Habs lower than 5th.
Where would you have the Habs?
I think 4th at the lowest. Maybe
you
3rd.
Can't have them. You really... I mean,
I don't know. You have the Habs over Colorado?
Vegas. Does it count for nothing that they beat Vegas, who is 3rd?
It counts for a lot. But if you run it back, who are you putting your money on?
Well, if we go back in time, I'm putting money on Vegas. I can
tell you what.
If we run it back knowing what I know, I'm putting money on the Habs because Vegas was terrible.
Yeah, but if you run it back and everything's flat again, and you go back in time, your money's on Vegas.
It's weird. You're using July's results, but May's logic. It's really
how much.
That's what's confusing me, man.
What played? There's a reason they always play the games because the games aren't won on paper.
It's true.
But when you're evaluating teams, you have to do it with what happened on the ice and with the talent in front of you and what you know. And if I'm doing that, how much do we believe even the Montreal Canadiens are going to come out of the Atlantic Division as a playoff team next year?
No, nobody believed that. Not even the Canadiens.
Well, no, next year.
No, next year. No, we're not sure. Listen, let's be real here. The 18th place Montreal Canadiens are a question mark to make the playoffs next year. And if you don't like that, then look at the results of the regular season.
They're the most fascinating team in the National Hockey League.
Without question. I'm not saying they don't deserve what they have. But 18th place, they would not have made the playoffs if this was a normal year.
How do I give them a higher seed than the President's Trophy winners? I don't. That'd be absurd.
So I think you got to at least have them above Boston.
Boston's really good.
Then put the Islanders 1.
What? No, Tampa's 1.
Tampa's 1.
Well, then Boston drops below Montreal, in my opinion.
Okay.
And Panthers over Pittsburgh, by the way. Panthers over Pittsburgh.
That's an 8-9. That's I'd be willing to hear that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought this list was perfect.
Oh,
No,
Jesse, I got a message to sell
I
you,
said
bud.
the top four.
I got a message to sell you.
The
He's
top
bending.
four.
He's been,
I said
get
we're a
him.
lock. The top four were a lock. I'm willing to hear arguments on Pittsburgh. I don't buy it because what I saw out of Florida in the playoffs was not great. Like they were
goaltending.
Yeah, it was goaltending, and they didn't even win a round. So I don't know. So we have two teams here who didn't win a round. So I take the more impressive team out of the two, which I thought was Pittsburgh, because I loved what I saw towards the end of the regular season when they brought in Brian Burke and they fired their head coach and they went on a little run. They finished fifth, 2 points behind Florida, to be honest. But I think with that lineup versus the Islanders, they looked great. 2 overtime losses, coin tosses. But Florida, I'm willing to hear an argument that they could knock off Pittsburgh in a 7-game series.
So, I think we have the reason why Pittsburgh made the list, and that is because producer Jesse, just Jesse, I got to stop calling you that. Jesse has kept in touch with Brian Burke since the interview that he conducted on this show about 6 months ago. They've been drinking highballs together over Zoom because that's what Brian was drinking when he was on this show, we think. And Brian said, "Hey, Jesse, if you ever do a power rankings list, you make sure I'm on it. You make sure my damn team."
I don't even care if I'm eighth.
So I think a consensus we've come to is a top 9. If we include Pittsburgh, we have a top 9 of teams. What do you
the
guys
Leafs
think?
took Stanley Cup finalists to 7.
What do you guys think of the teams that didn't make it?
Oh, I think it starts with the Leafs, as it always does.
I'll never forgive them.
It's an unforgivable thing. And basically, if we've taken a shot at your team, believe me, we've taken 10 shots at ours. I think the Leafs look the worst of all the teams that didn't make the list. And I don't think, objectively, from a hockey perspective, I don't think that you can look at that any other way. From Jesse's list, if we're just ranking it on BS for the playoffs, which I think we are, we're looking at the most disappointing team is far and away the Toronto Maple Leafs. Look at the teams that didn't make this list, okay? If we're talking about the top 9, okay? So we got Nashville, we got Washington, St. Louis,
super
Minnesota, Edmonton, Winnipeg, right?
Winnipeg.
Of those teams, I mean, not that the Capitals are bad, but the expectations of the Capitals weren't exactly high this year. St. Louis had an up and down year. The Wild came on strong at the end, and you can see where they're going. But it's sort of they're a house money play. The Oilers are disappointing because Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl were absolute mutants this year. But beyond that, it's a very ho-hum team, and it is.
I think they're less than that.
And I was getting, again, somebody was debating me again about the Taylor Hall Hart Trophy. They're like, Taylor Hall got his team to the playoffs. Where would they be without him? I'm like, how far in the basement do you think the Oilers would be without McDavid any season since he's been there? So they would be so they would have 10 more first overall picks if McDavid hadn't been.
Can we put a deadline for Taylor Hall 2017 MVP takes?
No.
Can we?
I will forever die on that hill. I will forever die on that hill. He did not deserve it. It was Connor McDavid's year.
So here, I want to finish this up though, because
finish you up.
We have Tampa versus. Sorry,
I'm just saying. Look at the expectations of the teams that did not make the list. Not a single one of them comes even close to the division-winning Toronto Maple Leafs.
I hate them.
And by the way, the Pittsburgh Penguins won the division too.
They stand out like a sore thumb.
I hate them a lot. So we have
go through the
Tampa versus Montreal, which is an interesting series for obvious reasons, and the Devon Taves Bowl. The Islanders take on the Colorado Avalanche.
That would have been so good to see.
That would have been a good series.
Yeah, you know what? I think the Isles win.
I think the Isles wins too.
Because this year, I really thought Colorado was too powerful to lose, but I think they got a little bit of Leafs. A little bit of Leafs. They're not quite, I'm not going to say soft, but they're not quite built for a deep playoff run. They need to, but they're not far. They're not far.
I don't feel bad for the heat that Mitch Marner has taken from this show specifically, because I think it's been fair. But you watch Tampa Bay play, and I look at a guy like Mitch Marner and go, well, who do I have? He's got options. But real big shot options, he's got one. And I watch Tampa play, and they have defensemen shooting from the blue line all the time. And not just little, like, wimpy little dinky things. We're talking big booming shots.
Not wimpy little dinky things.
When was the last time the Leafs had a good shot from the
Hall.
point? When was the last time we had a good shot from the point?
Well, like I saw Victor Hedman with that power play goal in was that game 3? That big bomb, and I was just like, who told you you're allowed to take a slap shot from the point? Why? That's become as old school as the wraparound. Like, when did they stop doing that? And the answer is they didn't. It's just the team we watch doesn't do it ever. Remember the power play was in the absolute shitter late in the regular season, and Sheldon Keefe goes, Jake Muzzin, why not? And he gets out there and he shoots it, and it went in.
Yeah.
Friggin' strangely enough.
Well, and
when did that become vintage?
People are saying, well, Sandin played really well on the first power play unit in the playoffs, and Morgan Riley might lose his first power play spot next year. If Morgan Riley's not your number one power play player, you got to trade him.
I think,
and he because that's what he does. He's an offensive player. The Leafs do not. It's not that they don't need what Morgan Riley brings. Any team could use it. But my question is, if Rasmus Sandin has stepped up that much, if Jake Muzzin can shoot the puck from the court, and I'm not talking about the Tyson Barrie, I'm going to fire it at your knees shot, which is what he did. That was the last guy who actually attempted to. I'm talking about an intelligent, well-reasoned, booming slap shot that can be tipped in. Mm-hmm. The last time the Leafs had that is probably Brian McCabe. Yep. And that's 15 years. Time to get some different weapons in there. And listen, it's not that Matthews shouldn't be the guy that scores all the goals, but objectively he can't. You got it, and it creates more room for a guy like Matthews who regular season he would have had 60 goals if this had been a normal year.
Did you see the Tyson Barrie stat?
No. What was the stat?
So it started to catch on different outlets, but the first place I saw it was Jay Fresh Hockey on Twitter. Fun fact, this is his tweet. Fun fact, Tyson Barrie is the first player in the 67-year history of the Norris Trophy to lead defensemen in scoring and not receive a single vote. Whew. He didn't get a single vote for the Norris.
The Norris used to be, who has the most points trophy?
Yeah,
from
and then before that it was the Nicholas Lidstrom's trophy.
Yeah.
He does one thing, and he does it extraordinarily well. Mm-hmm. But a defenseman,
he is
not quite. No. He's a rover. He's a specialist.
So 100%. Just to wrap that, Steve, you had Montreal upsetting Vegas in the 6-3 matchup, which I'll take. And then Tampa beats Montreal. And then our finals are the 1-2 seeds. Tampa versus New York.
That's interesting.
All right. Well, Tampa wins the cup again.
I just think it's funny that Montreal's ranked 6th even on your thing, and they still to upset because we watched them beat Vegas.
Yeah, right.
So even with your ranking, it's still 1, 2, 3, 6. Hilarious.
They don't get. I don't know if they make the playoffs next year. That Atlantic division is the best division in hockey going into the season on paper.
Do not put it past the Leafs to miss the playoffs. It would be their second playoff miss in 3 years.
I remember do you remember last year in July it might have been August by then when we were sitting there on Zoom watching Kyle Dubas in the draft lottery? Because that was a thing. The Leafs were a lottery team. Less than a year ago. So we might be there again.
Anyway, on that polite note, good luck to the Canadians. Good luck to the Lightning. Good luck to the fans. Enjoy the night tonight. Whatever way it goes, we will be back on.
Do we have time?
Wednesday.
We don't have time for your history corner?
Oh, I guess. Yeah, we do. We have a little time.
Can you squeak it in? Can you do
Let's squeak.
I can't do it.
Okay, he can't do it. Let's save it for Wednesday then, okay? Because we'll have
No, here, if you want to do it, we can do it, but I have to take a break.
Here's what we have to do. Jesse, ask the question, so it'll be a tease, and I'll give you the answer next show.
Okay. Let me pull it up. Give me half a second.
It's a good question. I'm actually curious to get other people's answers on this too. And in the meantime, I want to show you an Andrew Berkshire tweet. And this is where Montreal's lineup decisions are puzzling. This season, while Gallagher, Deneau, and Tatar were on the ice together, they outscored opponents 18-3. And they will not play them. Will not play them together.
That seems
this is
like a
from
mistake.
Chaser Wing 12 on Twitter. I got a question for Adam. Would you rather be a Japanese soldier on Iwo Jima, or a Russian soldier in Stalingrad?
Stalingrad.
I'm not saying those correctly.
So if you're a history buff, would love to get your answers on this, and we'll answer it next episode because there's some context here, and I think it's pretty important and important to your history book.
And there is no good answer.
No, both are bad. Both are very bad. Yeah. So enjoy it. Enjoy tonight. Hopefully we've got more games to talk about next episode. If not, it's just the one. And good luck again, like the Canadiens fans, the Lightning fan. Enjoy the ride. See you on Wednesday.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.